Hi, Jazz.
Hey, what's up? Back, how's school going?
Good.
Where is she?
No,
Good.
she left, Saya.
Oh.
She's like putting me down and dipped.
Are we recording? Oh,
Yeah.
Yo, what's up? Facebook.
It's not just Facebook. But anyway, are we echoing? Because last time we were echoing. Are we doing that?
This time we're not.
Okay,
I
good.
don't even hear none.
So look, this topic is I'm titling it "What's Going On," and it is about it's a focus on really what's going on. Hey, Jazz, it's a focus on what's going on with our kids, and it's going to be less about us, although we will bring in some stuff about us, but more of a little bit of a PSA for parents. So
okay.
Should be interesting. So as your forever counselor, you have the right to not incriminate yourself. So if there's a question here that will send you to jail, don't answer it. No, I'm just playing. So I want to touch on what's going on with kids really at all ages. You know, parents are out of touch, we're busy. We're competing with social media. We're competing with, kids having phones at 11 years old and iPads and all that good stuff. And so even the cool moms have no idea what's happening.
Yeah,
with our kids.
I agree.
So this is, I think it's going to be a good topic, and I think it's a little bit of a PSA for like my friends as well. So I do want to start, however, with college and work my way back, just because that's sort of your recent memory. And I want to start with freshman year, and maybe even before that. So before freshman year, as you were going into freshman year, how were you feeling? Like, what were the things that you were excited about? What were some of the things that you were fearful about? Like, what were you afraid of going into freshman year? Joys and fears. Let's start with you.
Okay, I can start. I know that me and Zay are gonna have different answers because me and Zay have talked about this before, but I have always had like fears about making friends. So I think going into college, I definitely had like that. I was definitely nervous about making friends because a lot of what I did was always like I just had friends. So because of gymnastics, I had friends, and then I went to the same school for some of middle school and high school. So I was kind of like, well, I don't remember how to make friends. And then just going to like an HBCU, I wasn't sure like how I was gonna be like perceived by other people and like that whole thing. So I think those two things is what I was most like fearful about when like freshman year. I was just like really nervous. And then you told me, you're like, well, everybody's trying to make friends. So I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it like that. So that was something that was kind of a fear. And then a joy. I think I was like most excited about um I feel like you have like a really big responsibility when you get to college because you can kind of like do like your work when you want to. It's not like you have as much like scheduled days like you do in high school. I think that was kind of what I didn't really expect. Like when I picked my classes, I didn't really know exactly what it meant. Sorry. I didn't know exactly what it meant to be like, oh, have a class at 1 and a class at 4. Like, you know what I mean? Like you don't know what you do in between. I was kind of excited to figure that out. Like, oh, I take naps this time, and oh, at this time I'm better at doing my work or something like that. So I would say those.
So figuring out your like autonomy, like
Yeah,
now
like
I
my
get to make my
own.
own
Yeah,
decisions and my own schedule. What
yeah,
am I going to do with that? And that was exciting to you.
yeah.
Yeah. Deuce, joys, fears. What comes to mind? Freshman year. Try to think back.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they're probably both football related. Um, I guess fear. I mean, not fear, but just like I guess not knowing exactly where you're gonna stack up against the competition, football wise, just going into camp. I mean, I've done a lot of work, but it's still you have no idea. So I guess that
Yeah, like everybody
not
that
like fear, but
everyone that ends up at Harvard or any D1 school was the captain of their football team, right? Or
Mhm.
you know, number one in their state or whatever. So I can totally see
Yeah.
like, okay, where am I going to stack up against everybody else?
Yeah, and you know, you don't know. You think you're working hard, but you don't know how what everybody else is doing and all that stuff. So, I would say that that would probably be the one thing that I was, you know, in the back of my mind. And then as far as joy, like I had known so many of the guys already. Just we already had group chats and um, visits and all that stuff. So I already knew. Well, at least from what I knew, you know, through social media and all of that stuff, that I was walking into like a pretty cool group. And I guess like definitely one thing that that athletes have over the rest of campus is that you're kind of walking in with, you know, 50 to 100 friends just like that, which is pretty cool. And it's like it takes a while to even branch out from that. It probably took me till my junior year until I really started talking to other people, honestly, because
Yeah.
it was like I had my teammates. That was really all I needed. So um like yeah, being excited about that and then that like coming to fruition with the friends that I have now was pretty cool. Yeah.
So look, I think thank you for that. I think in college, uh, you have more of an opportunity sooner rather than later, I think, to decide who are gonna be your friends. You know, because I think, like you said, Monty, in gymnastics, you have your team. And although you may not be close to all of them, like you're just kind of ready-made friends. In high school, you're ready-made friends, you're in the same clubs and things like that. In college, I'm curious as to how you ultimately picked your friends. So you started off with a group of people who you were cool with because y'all were all together, but like, how did you decide who was going to be your friend ultimately? How did you do that, and what types of people ended up in that group?
Well, I'm still doing that. I did not have the same like experience at Spelman that I think a lot of my like Spelman sisters have had. So I've had a kind of like a tough batch of friends. So I honestly have not figured it out. The friends that I have right now, I really what I'm drawn to them is just the fact that they're always just kind of fun. And I think the friends that I had before, I wouldn't say like I'm like was were draining. I don't think I would put that on a person, but like just like emotionally, like it was kind of heavy. And I think that the friends I have now that I've made through a team, through doing cheer, um, I think they're just more fun, lighthearted. They have similar backgrounds. Like they have parents that went to Spelman and Morehouse. They have like the same like family aspect. I think that like really comes out into friendships, like who people were brought up by. So I
Mhm.
think that having similar backgrounds and like we just want to have a good time. We don't really it's very surface. So that's one thing that I think is it's not necessarily a complaint, but they're very surface and but I have a good time with them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I'm still working on the friend thing.
Yeah, no, and I think it's, you know, I think you mentioned something that you kind of pulled back from, which is people can be draining. People can be draining. And I have pulled away from people who are constantly focused on themselves, who never have a good day, who like literally drain my spirit. I get energy from people. And so if you
Yes,
give me good
that's
energy,
what Tiani always says about me. That's what she says. She's like, "Well, you get your energy from other people, so that's why. Like, that's probably why I don't like being alone. Like, I like doing like, I'm always calling people. Like, I'll be on the phone because I feel like I get my energy from people. Wow.
and so people can drain you. And if if you don't want to feel drained, you got to pluck certain people out your life. That's just really how it is. Or deal with them less. Because there's certain people you can't really pluck out, but you have to deal with them less, quite frankly. So Isaiah, what about you in terms of friendships? I think guys have a different like meter for who's
Yeah,
gonna
I agree.
not, but I could be totally wrong and I don't want to be sexist. So Zaya, tell me a little bit about sort of how you developed your friendships and who's still in your ring and who's not and why. Your circle of trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with everything y'all are saying for the most part. Like you just have to, I feel like you just have to make decisions based on what's best for you. And I feel like for the most part, like who I don't rock with this person. Like, and I haven't like, because I'm not like, y'all know, like super confrontational. Like there definitely been times where like I've allowed like people to like be near me or be in my group when I probably like should, like when it's been like a detriment to me.
Mhm.
Uh whether it still be, I'm still tight with you, I'm still cool with you, but I probably need to spend less time with you just because that energy thing that y'all talking about, like you drain me. Like it's just too much. So like I feel all of that. I would say for the most part, not to be sexist as well, I feel like I have seen, like, I don't know, like maybe women, like friends, like have more issues than I've experienced. Because most of the time things are straight, but at the same time, that doesn't always hang. Because I've seen a lot of dudes just be doing things that I'm like, yo, I need to get away from this. Like you're just doing too much. So I feel like maybe it's not as I don't know, gendered as it may
Yeah, I
seem,
think
but at
the
the same
women are
point,
more vocal.
I have seen.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think the women are more vocal about issues than men are, and
I
so
think that they take them more
problems.
personally. Like they'll take things a little bit more personally. So when they're like, you can vocalize something, and I can vocalize something, and what you said may feel more personal than what I said to you, kind of thing.
Yeah, possibly. So what else was going on freshman year in terms of kids? So how bad is, and look, again, not talking about your personal experience, your personal doings, but how bad is like drinking and drug use and stuff like that in college? Is it rampant? And I mean, you guys are in different institutions. You're at a HBCU, Monty. Isaiah, you're in a PWI. You're in Boston, Isaiah. You're in Atlanta, so Imani. So it could be totally different campuses and situations. But I'm curious. Is it as bad as sort of we're hearing? Like kids go to college and just go buck wild?
I
can't really tell what. Yeah, I can't really tell what buck wild, like. No, I'm gonna tell you, no, for me, no, because I know there are some party schools that are on another level, and I don't really feel like my school is like that. And while there are definitely some people who like are bad, like there's no, like, I wouldn't say I ever felt like, yo, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whereas I know there are schools that are that people be wilding. So like I know, I can't say it's like that. I know like freshman year is probably the craziest year though, just because people are like free and people can do what they want. So it's a fun time, but I never felt like it wasn't like people getting sent to the hospital every set. I mean, probably like one or two people are being sent to the hospital every weekend, but it wasn't like
get sent to the hospital. Like, wait.
No, I mean probably like we would. I mean, quite often you have like an ambulance in the yard or something like that. Right? I'm not.
I gotta say, I was
every once in a while, not every weekend, not every weekend.
But I don't remember an ambulance ever having to show up at Spelman, but maybe at Morehouse.
Y'all don't have no ambulances coming through. It was. I'm gonna say once a month.
Because somebody overdid it with alcohol or drugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it really depends on the school. Like seriously, like Zay said, there are some like serious party schools, but I think that like nothing. I don't think it's like rampant. Like I think that maybe that's what you might perceive it as, or like just you being like older and different generation. Because I don't think that your generation was like drinking and stuff at these parties.
They were.
They were. Okay, because sometimes you make it sound like you guys weren't. So I was just like, okay, but I think that it's like
mommy and daddy was wild.
Now, if it's like if you don't do it now, then you're gonna look really stupid when you're 24 and you're not worried about your getting life together. Instead, you want to go out and party. So I feel like there's a reason for it, and I don't think it's completely like useless or completely stupid. I don't think it should be ambulance coming in every month, but like that's not what happens here at Spelman. But people do go overboard, but I think it's only overboard when like it has to do with your life and the reason why you're here. Like if you're not getting good grades and you're getting sent to the hospital, then that's ridiculous. That's you going overboard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we were not like sitting in our dorm room praying every Saturday.
Well, I didn't think so, but I didn't
That's
know if like
sure.
at the parties you had that type of stuff. Like
Yeah, well, you know what? Not on campus for sure. But
no.
yeah, I mean, we went out, we drank. We didn't. I wasn't passing out. I can't speak for can't speak for Daddy, but I didn't see, honestly, I didn't see drug use at in college. To be honest with you, I did not see that.
Oh, in
What was
Atlanta.
happening outside of my circles, but I did not see that. Now we had our little drinks and we, whatever, but it wasn't like anybody was out of control, and we certainly were not being hauled off to the hospitals. Sure.
Yeah, and then I would say like I think there's like I don't know like about marijuana use when you went to school, but there's like a lot of marijuana use, and a lot of people prefer using marijuana over like drinking these days and stuff like that, which
Mhm.
was something that I didn't really see until I got to
Yeah.
Atlanta. I don't know if it's an
Is
Atlanta
it
thing, if
legal?
it's a college thing, but being in a city, like that's a lot of people prefer that over like drinking. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of the time. I don't know.
And it's not legal in Atlanta, right? It's legal in
It's
Boston, right?
decriminalized. If you get caught with like a certain amount, then they will like look at you. But if you're just kind of like if you're like using it for personal, just to yourself, if you're selling it, it's not good apparently. But if you're just holding on to it for yourself, then
Yeah.
they like to pick and choose anyway.
Okay. Anything else you want to say on that, Deuce?
No, not really.
Okay. So what advice, we're gonna end the freshman talk with this question. What advice would you give to a freshman, a senior now who's gonna be a freshman next year in terms of school, friendships, whatever? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, the advice that I that I like that I took to heart when I got here was from Justice Elton Mosley, when he basically just said like don't forget who you were when you came in here, don't forget how you got here. And I think that's the most important thing. You got to college and you got to this point because you were a certain type of person, you had a certain type of work ethic, certain type of morals. And I feel like it's definitely okay to experiment in like colleges for that, but also like try not to stray too far away from how you got to this point. Was like pretty important for me freshman year, as like so many different things are getting thrown at you and all this stuff. It's just important not to forget who you are and how you got yourself to this point.
Yeah, and whose you are. How about you, Man?
Mine's a little bit different, but I said this to one of my friends, well, she's not my friend, and it doesn't really matter, but someone that came to Spelman that I was new in high school, she just got here and I told this to her. And I was just like, not everybody needs to know like your business. You should be really selective and be really intentional about who you share what with. And certain people are meant for certain things, certain people are not meant for certain conversations. Not everybody needs to know what you're doing on Friday night. Not everyone needs to know who you're with on Friday night. And that's your choice. I'm not saying be sneaky or anything, but be intentional about who you share your life with in college. And not everyone needs to know everything. Like you can keep some things to yourself. And grandma always told me to always keep some things to myself. So I really always like to
Yeah,
some things you could just keep to yourself. You don't have to tell your friends everything.
it's great advice.
That's great advice.
I
That's
love
great
that
advice.
advice. And I give a similar, actually, I was talking to somebody today just about managing work and home and kids and all that stuff. And not everybody needs to know your every move. Not everybody needs to know, oh, I can't make that meeting because I got to pick up my kid at 3:00. Like you have a conflict, and not everybody needs to know every aspect of your life. First of all, they don't care. that much. But second of all, some things are yours to know. So I love that advice going into college too. So what conversation, was there anything or conversation that you wish we would have had that we didn't have before you left home, before you sort of left the nest? Was there something that you said, dag, my parents should have warned me about that or said something about that, or we should have had a conversation about that? Lonnie's laughing because she has something, but she doesn't want to say it. No? Okay. I'm not going to stump you guys. If you think of something, then feel free to share it. All right. Let's talk about high school. Going back a couple of years.
By the way, I loved high school. I'm like one of the girls that just love high school.
You loved high school.
Yeah, I'm one
He
of
kind
them.
of liked high school too. He was a boarder though, so he was away.
Loved high school. High
Yeah.
school was great.
So what one thing that happens in high school that parents would be shocked to know? Shocked.
Like in high school, like I sometimes like people don't really do their we don't do our homework. It's just like we all just do it like right before class or something, or we'd be like, oh, did you read like that? Oh, nobody read, so like we would all like right before class, like on the senior benches, we would just like all be filling out each other's work right before class started.
Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't know that. Given
That's
up,
like a small thing. It's like a little small thing.
yeah, but that's whatever. Okay,
But
Isaiah.
it's like, there's no really consequences in high school. That's also like there's no real consequences in high school, especially when you go to like a private school. Like they're not gonna do anything. They can't do anything.
See, that's where our experiences are very different, because boarding, I mean, if you're sending your kid to, I think there's so much pressure with sending, just like being at like a boarding school, maybe like, like Lawrenceville was just like every move, like you're being, at least I felt like you're being watched. And like, I feel like I'm still not like trauma or nothing, but I still feel like because of how like at any moment you could get a major and it could be on your record and you could be sent home for doing something that, like, I don't know, any other high school student is doing, or even something more serious like plagiarism or whatever.
Who don't know what that is?
A major is basically if you do something wrong, then you get a major, right? You only get two.
Disciplinary cross.
Yes, the disciplinary strike. You get two and you're kicked out, but if you get one, it's put on your record. So most of the time, one is enough to get somebody to leave. You'll leave before you can get that on your record, so that colleges don't see it. And I just think, like for some people, it's just really a really unhealthy environment because of that. And it's just not for everybody. So I know I've had so many like good people that I know just weren't able to do it because of how much pressure was applied because of something. Like you get like if you plagiarize at a different type of school, you'll go to detention. If you plagiarize at a school like Lawrenceville, you have to leave school. You have to go find another place and you have to hope that they don't put it on your resume. If you get caught with like going or like being with somebody or being with your girlfriend or doing this or that, that's on your record, or that's, you're in trouble. Whereas every weekend high school students everywhere are partying and like you have no access to any of that. So it was like really like yo, they watching you in here, which is like pretty crazy as like 14, 15, 16 when you're just trying to figure out what's going on. So
yeah, well that's interesting.
Really, I had very different high school experiences.
Boarding school versus independent schools, for all those out there. Do you feel like high school, and this is something I really would love to know, because when I went to college, first of all, I went to a public school in Long Island. I don't feel I didn't feel prepared for college, to be honest with you. I did well, I had great grades and all of that, but it was not the kind of educational, top-notch educational experience that you guys have received. So I'm curious that you guys were blessed to have. I didn't know it at the time, obviously, because no one was sending their kids to independent schools and boarding schools where I lived and during our time. But I'm curious if you guys felt like you were prepared for college based on your high school experience.
I would say based on my high school experience, I was academically like 1000% prepared for Spelman. And I go to Spelman, I do not go to Harvard. So I felt like I was so prepared and could stand out in my classes because it's kind of like 50-50 at Spelman. It's like half the people at Spelman, they went to private schools, half people at Spelman to maybe like public schools and things like that. And you can tell, like when you in freshman year, like as everyone starts to matriculate into being in Spelman, like junior year, we're probably like right now, like we're all on the same page. Like, but when you first come in, you can really see like especially I noticed when in my Spanish class, people are like, I tested into like one of the Spanish classes, like the last one, and I was in regular Spanish. I never went to honors. I was never in like AP Spanish or anything. I was in regular Spanish. I got regular private school Spanish. And I was so like far, like I was like, oh my goodness, like, okay, I don't know that. Okay. But so like I noticed like I was really prepared. I was really academically prepared. But I would say like my private school, high school experience maybe didn't socially prepare me for Spelman. Like all the things we were talking about earlier, like they were very new to me. And there's a lot of people that this is not new to them. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just how I've kind of felt like, well, dang, I didn't really do that. Kind of wish I did that before I got here. But things like that. So I say academically, yes. Socially, maybe.
Yeah. How about you, Deuce?
All right, I'll say okay. So obviously not Spelman. So I'll say like Lawrenceville felt like a little Harvard like before. So I think like one of the biggest things about like going to PWI for like Black students initially is like, I don't know, the uncomfortable moments where you like have to speak for an entire race, or maybe as a student athlete, feeling like, oh, I'm not really supposed to be here, like people see me differently, people don't respect my intellect, or think somebody let me in, and all of that stuff, I had to deal with that at Lawrenceville. So I had already kind of dealt with trying to find myself in a white space.
Yeah, so at Lawrenceville, what you're saying is that the experience of being a Black person there, like being an athlete, just being Black, you had to get over this hurdle of people not thinking that you should be there, like you're there as a favor, or you're an athlete, or you don't have the intellect. You're saying you kind of had to deal with that, and you learned how to deal with that before you got to Harvard, where you could have had a similar.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, which I think was valuable, and yeah, to the point where like, I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to do. Blah blah blah. I know myself. All that stuff was already, which is a pretty big hurdle for a lot of students. So I didn't have to deal with that psychological like part, which was good preparation. The classroom, like, while I guess I was surprised that I wasn't more prepared for the classroom side of it. And I don't know if that was because Lawrenceville didn't have the same emphasis on the football, because just the time that I was spending maybe on football and classes was nothing compared to what I was doing in high school. And it was my freshman year was really tough because, Harvard doesn't give you much support, like academically. And they don't really care that you're playing football.
Yeah, not like other schools that have you like tutors, you're working together as a team, you got a study lab, you got, everything is really meant to help you succeed. Harvard's like, hey, you're here, they throw you in the big water just like everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, they treat the football on the other side of the river in the classroom like a club. So it's not, they do not care. You have the same amount of work. You don't have a tutor unless you go out and get one, all that stuff. So that was probably the hardest part, that adjustment. And I felt like I was coming from one of the best schools, and I was still like, holy, this is a lot. So that was probably
You
the
also
hardest
had
thing.
2 students that came from your school that weren't athletes that didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't know what happened to them. Are they still at Harvard? Four
I'm not sure.
guys went to Harvard. I only know the 2 that are left, but maybe they came back. I don't know. So thank you guys. Let's quickly pivot to the little guys. Middle school, lower school. And I only ask you guys because you have little siblings. So you kind of have a window into what's going on. If I tried to ask you what was happening when you were that small, you probably don't remember, but what should parents know about the little guys? Like, we have social media, we have TikTok, we have phones, there's just a lot. And it's overwhelming, honestly, for parents to kind of keep track of it all. So what are some things that we should be more focused on and thinking about for that little group of people?
I would say, sorry, I knew exactly what I was going to say when you asked that. I would say, like, having more conversations and giving them more exposure, because they have, like, they go to me and Zay didn't go to private schools when we were in like elementary school, and not really in middle school. Not like Layla's, like not like early middle school.
Yeah.
So like I would say, like, they don't have those conversations that they should be having at those private schools, and they don't have like they don't fully have the exposure that I think that they should be getting as like Black children. So I think that it's just really important, because they're seeing things on social media, it has to like translate somehow. It has to be like, it has to connect, like,
Yeah.
through all
So
different.
give me an example what you mean by a conversation.
Yeah, I just
What
mean
more?
like, I don't. hmm.
Some of the racial issues that we're dealing with, or
I would
just
say I would say racial issues. I would say just conversations about emotions. How you feel? How do you feel going to a gymnastics gym, and there's no Black, there's like one Black girl on your team? How do you feel about, this sport? Do you want to do this in college? Do you feel like you want to still do this? Or how do you feel about going to the school? Do you have friends? Do you feel like your friends like you? Like things like that. Those type of conversations, I feel like that's how I would like, that's how kind of like I would, like I would try to do for my kids, I guess, have
Yeah.
more of those conversations, because
Yeah,
I think
I have
that
an
they would
official
like that.
of Layla or Anthony. So I thank you for that advice, because I will have more of those, and just have
Yeah,
just open-ended type of question.
yeah, kind of open ended, because I think that they also lack like a lot of communication skills that me and Zaya have,
Yeah.
but because like they don't, like they're just, and that's what I think social media has done. Everything is short, and everything is like, ooh, did, and it's like,
I can't get Layla to put 3
yeah,
sentences together when I
yeah,
ask her,
how do
like,
you
what
feel
is
about
going
that?
on in school?
Yeah,
Like
even like,
little tidbits.
yeah, even like I did this thing where like I was thinking about doing this thing for one of my classes, like the student teaching, like, oh, like, but bring us your favorite TikTok for that day. And like, why did you like that TikTok? What made you laugh? Like,
Yeah.
did that make you think of something? Things like that. Like, you can even bring social media into like just
The
like
conversation.
developmental stuff.
Mhm.
Sorry, I can't speak. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, more conversations, because they're so in front of their screens. Like, you gotta get them out and talk about it. And even if you're using the social media to start the conversation, that's what we should be doing, and getting into their heads a little bit more. I find it difficult with this crew to do it. How about you, Deuce? What you think with these little guys?
Yeah, I like that advice from Monty. Don't let them forget they Black for sure. Like what Monty's saying. I don't know if that's a weird thing to say. But yeah, just like, I mean, I think y'all have always done a good job with that. It's just like I always talk about it, like having Black art in the home, and all of the little children's books with Black and all that stuff, just because it is like kind of confusing. And I'm sure with them going to like PWIs as little kids, like it can just a whole nother level of that. And I don't know. So when I was like working with younger kids, like for like a summer camp, like I kind of got a lens to see like how negative some of the social media stuff can be on just like younger minds, as far as like self-esteem and all of these different issues. When so I don't know, them on social media just it scares me. They're just like so young, and there's just like so much. Like when I see them scrolling on YouTube, like you have no idea what they're on. Like,
Right.
and you have no idea what they're
What
seeing.
else is
And
gonna pop up?
exactly. And then TikTok and all this stuff. So I don't really know how to solve that, but I just know like just I don't know, just keeping like you can't just like give them the phones and iPads and like not like Monty's saying, not just have conversations about it. And I think Monty, that's really good advice of like how to use it. How can you bring in the conversation? How can you use it effectively? You're not going to be able to take it away. So how can you kind of bring that in? Kind of even if they know like, all right, Monty's going to ask me what was my favorite thing I found on TikTok today. At least they're looking for something positive on TikTok instead of a whole bunch of crap that they be watching. You know, because I don't think it's feasible to be like, all right, we're not like she already got a phone, he already got a little iPad, so you're not going to be able to take that stuff away now. So how can you make it productive? Because it can have a negative impact when little kids are comparing themselves to whatever cat they're seeing with some of their other friends or this or this or that. So yeah.
No, I like that's all great advice. Definitely going to implement that. I think there's more we can do about just pride and self-esteem, and Black pride. And like you said, look, we have artwork, we have books, we have all that stuff, and we do spend time reading that. We don't spend enough time talking about the contributions and all the things. Not as much as I used to spend with you guys. So there's a lot more work I need to do on my part. So I really appreciate you guys saying that. Anything else?
Yeah, and just to add, oh yeah, I was just to add to that, like I had a summer assignment for something, and like there's a lot of movies that we saw, but when I think of like back to movies that we saw in theaters, like I remember going to see like Glory Roads, that basketball movie. I remember going to see Red Tails. I remember like for some reason like those movies, like I don't know, like they weren't necessarily the ones that are like gonna break you down and all that stuff, but for some reason, like I remember there are certain movies that those type of movies just stuck in my head. And sure, we saw a whole bunch of little kid movies, but those movies did a lot, and all the little Bojangles book we had and all that stuff. So I just
I love
yeah, so I don't know, like, but it's just
they are different. I think they're
Frederick Douglass read, and just me and Anthony. I just wanted time with me and Anthony, and we read that, and it took us 2 days, and I can just see like you see it turning in his head, like the pride, that is that, and just the little things he's learning, the things that he'll never forget, because we did it together once, first and foremost. And I was able to emphasize certain things, as we read it. So
yeah, and I think that's important because he's not gonna get that. He's not getting that unless he has like a Black teacher. Yeah. Like you're the only person that's gonna put it that way. So that's why I think it's really important. Yeah. Because I think that Zay and I had a lot of we had some Black teachers in like elementary school. Did you ever, Zay?
Oh, no.
Well, I gotta tell you.
Look, I'm just saying, that's also part of it. That's part of it. You're the only person that's gonna give him that lens, especially if he's going to schools like Lily. I think going to schools that are surrounded by white people.
Yeah, but I gotta. The one thing about Doane that's different than Morristown Friends and that's different than Lawrenceville is that it is much more diverse. Much more. They actually have.
That's true. They have a lot of Black students.
And then since I've been on the board in the last 4 years, we now have the most diverse board we've ever had and the most diverse faculty and staff. So they actually have Black male teachers. Layla has several Black male teachers. And so it's made a big difference. Great. It's important. Yeah. Everything you're saying is the reason why I fought for that, because it makes a huge difference. So but still, nothing replaces your mom and dad feeding you for sure. And we can't rely on the schools or the teachers or anyone else to do that. So, so this is like, you need to hear it, even as a parent, that you got to continue that
Yeah.
fight until the end.
Yeah, and you don't want it to like you don't want to discourage them from like that's like the hard part is like you don't want to discourage them because I remember when we were watching one of those movies and Anthony was like how he was oh Harriet, we were watching Harriet and I was like, oh, should he watch this, like he feels this type of way. I'm like, no,
Questionable. That's what I
Yeah.
worry about. Is it going to make you feel bad?
yeah,
Know that you were a slave, your parents, your
yeah,
grandfather's grandfather was a slave. Like, so you gotta, they have to know their history, but you have to balance it with the self-esteem stuff.
yeah, like you have to build them up.
It reminds me of the poem that you did, Deuce, that you just kind of like vacillating between self-pride and self-hate. And like, how do you deal when you're dealing with impressionable minds like that? How do you balance it? And I always struggle with that. I struggle with that with you guys, and it's still a struggle because you want to make sure that they get what they get out of it is Black pride. Oftentimes when I'm like, I can't do this or something's hard or whatever, I think about my ancestors, not the ones that are, the folks that are doing great now, but the people who made it through in the hardest of times. And I want you guys to always be able to anchor what's happening now and what you have inside based on what our people have been able to overcome. And so it's important that you understand all of that history.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much so much negativity around being Black that it's just, I don't know, I feel like in the home is a place where you're kind of home and family. So like as much as they can spend time with their cousins and things like that, and just seeing, Black beauty and all that, the Black family and the strength of all that stuff is just so important because everywhere else is telling them that is not real and that, so it don't gotta be nothing crushing oppression wise, and they don't gotta be watching 12 Years a Slave or nothing like that. But just even just
get roots in. We do have to eventually.
I don't know. I've been fine with
it. It's too rough right now for them, but we will do it again as a family. All right, we went way over time, but I can't stop.
I think this needs to be a 2-part.
I know, but I don't know how to break it up. I'll try to break it up. I
can try to figure it out. If you send it to me, I can try to do it.
Okay, we'll try to figure it out. But you guys are amazing. This was such a good conversation. I wasn't really sure how it was going to go because it was kind of less about us and more like a PSA, but I thought it was an important conversation to have. So I'm really, really glad that we did it. So looking forward to next week.
All right, bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye Facebook. Bye Facebook. Have a good one.
Facebook.
I love Facebook.
Silly.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.